Welcome to Talking Halos, Derek Ciapola. Yeah, I'm cold. Here's Jared Timms and Nate Green for another edition of the show. Today, lots going on. Injury news across the board. Two pitchers going down. The Angels face Shohei Ohtani and the Dodgers, and other roster moves. First things first. Nate, how you doing, man?
Doing well. How about you, Derek?
Living the dream. All right, inspirational, but doing all right. How's baseball going
It's
for you?
good. Watching the College World Series game two right now. A&M's up 1-0, so it's good.
Jared, how you feeling?
Doing fantastic. I'm a little tired coming off 12. This is today's 12 straight games for the Sawtooth Sockeyes and the Summer Baseball Collegiate League, but got a couple days off tomorrow and Tuesday before we head out to Oregon. And yeah, no, I'm excited.
All right, so
But Angels wise, we can talk about it.
quick question for you, because people, I'm sure listeners have noticed we're not as active right now. You and Nate are both busy right now. You in particular, what is the summer league that you do?
It's just summer college baseball. There's a bunch of leagues that happen. I think we've got 58 games in about 60 days or something crazy like that. So I an all night game, 6:30, 7 o'clock games. So between working a 9 to 5 and then going straight over to the field, not a lot of time to podcast or watch Angels baseball.
What level of players are you saying? These college level, but like any prospects in your league at all, or just these guys who are playing to play?
I'm coaching my brother. He's going to University of Washington next year. So we got D1 guys all the way to JUCO to NAIA. I mean, I think we got a little bit of everything on our team, but yeah, no, we're facing some good competition. Played a couple kids from Gonzaga, a couple kids from Oregon. I mean, all over the place. It's a lot of fun.
How's this compared to the MLB draft league that takes on?
I'd say the MLB Draft League is a little bit better. But I mean, same basic concept. A bunch of kids looking to get drafted. Same thing as us here. But a bunch of kids just looking to get innings. Yeah.
So there's the background as to why we are not as active right now. Hopefully, as the season goes on, we can get things squared, especially come draft day, which is coming very soon. Two injuries right away, both in the rotation. Jose Soriano with an abdominal illness. No
Big
real details. Just gonna be out for a week or two.
maybe. I think they
I don't know.
classified it as an infection, but I don't know what exactly that means, you know. Could be a week, could be a month, I don't know. Sucks.
Well, it can't be a week, but
Can be 15 days,
there you go.
10 days, whatever they put them on.
15.
They put on 15. Yeah, they put them on 15. It could be 2 weeks, could be a month. I don't know.
So doing a quick evaluation on Jose Soriano. He was kind of a surprise starter this year. Was a bullpen guy last year. We generally like him. Uh, Would you say he is been one of the few bright spots this team has had this year?
Yeah,
I,
I mean, there's not many, but yeah,
That's why it's a few.
He's pitched well.
I can answer that. Jose Soriano was my pick to be the Angels All-Star this year if it wasn't Mike Trout. So there you go. And not a surprise to me. I mean, he's got really good stuff, but did I think he was going to be out of the rotation? No. You thought he was going to be a really good bullpen piece, back of the rotation or back of the bullpen guy, but pleasant surprise to see him in the bullpen. It was always a third pitch for him, even dating back to the minors. He was one of the first guys that I covered, and yeah, it was always a third pitch for him. He always had really good fastball, always had a really good curveball, which we've seen. It was always that third pitch, and he's added in the splinker, I think is what it's called, right? The splinker. So that's really working for him.
Where do you think once he's better or anything, where do you think he kind of fits in the end for the Angels? Like, is he going to be a part rotation guy to you, or do you think he's going to go back to the bullpen, like back in the bullpen? There's lots of moving pieces in the Angels roster. I'm just curious as where you think he goes from here.
Well, if they trade Tyler Anderson, he's the ace. So, I mean, right, realistically, I don't know. I mean, yeah,
This is where we are now.
he's probably in the rotation. I don't know. I think he's pitching well out of the rotation, but two Tommy Johns, that scares me to throw that many innings on him. But I don't know. I don't know. It's a tough choice.
Nate,
Yeah, I mean, I think he's earned his spot to stay in the rotation. There's if they were going to take him out of the rotation, they would have done it already. Like it's his job unless, he gets hurt again, but for the most part it's his job.
the two the two Tommy Johns concern me. I'm wondering, how they can possibly justify keeping him in the rotation long term and throwing those innings on him and hoping to keep him healthy. That would be my one thought when it
We
comes
did
to
roster Noah
Soriano.
Syndergaard and start Noah Syndergaard. Just
It might be better to be in the rotation with two Tommy Johns anyways, when you think about it, instead of being
you
on
get
like an
rest.
actual rotation and rest. Yeah, that might actually end up being a little better on the arm injuries rather than I'd be interesting to see. I have no data behind this, but I mean, do we think that relievers have more Tommy Johns or starters have more Tommy Johns?
Starters.
Stars.
So
Yeah, starters just because they throw more pitches. There's more opportunities to get hurt. But I mean, Jacob DeGrom, you'd still roster him. You would still start him, and he's coming back from his second Tommy John. Like, if you got good enough stuff, you're gonna pitch in the big moments, and I think it just makes sense to keep him as a starter right now, just because that's what he is. And they don't really have anything else to like, oh, hey, we've got two or three more guys that make sense to put in the rotation. Like, he's the best option, and there's no point. Like, you have just as good of a chance of getting hurt in the bullpen as you do of getting hurt as a starter.
All right. So now we also have the second injury in just a couple of days is Patrick Sandoval with the quote unquote elbow strain. Whenever I hear elbow strain, it usually means something else. Go on and say it, Nate. What's that usually mean?
I'm just scared it's Tommy John. Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, you look at the pitch that he threw. He was 96 and he threw a 96-mile-an-hour fastball two pitches before, and then the same pitch came out 89. Plus the way he reacted, I mean, it didn't look good, that's for sure. But at the end of the day, you hope that he goes through he goes through it correctly, whatever that the doctor decides, and maybe we see him at some point down the road this year, maybe not. If he has the surgery, you hope you see him by next July, maybe by the end of the year. If not, I mean, oh man, that's rough for the Angels for sure.
The one thing that also is scary about it is they first diagnosed as an elbow or as a elbow strain, which is forearm strain. Excuse me, forearm strain,
Mhm.
and that's usually TJ 100% of the time when you get the forearm strain. So hopefully that's not it. Hopefully he can recover and be available for them come September, probably late August.
Yeah, but then on the same token, if we're talking about TJ, that's a pretty big hope right now, right? That's I think the key thing is what Jared said. You got 96 mile an hour pitch. You hit 89. Same pitch, just a couple pitches later. That reminds me of when Shohei tore his. Then he had that drop immediately. You guys remember that last year?
Telltale signs of Tommy John for sure.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
so. I mean, we're trying to be hopeful, but it's not looking good. And telltale sign, like you said, a quick drop, scary for me. So
I'll say this one positive you can kind of take away from this is that it doesn't feel like this has happened all that much to the Angels in recent years. Like before, after you had the Garrett Richards injury, it hasn't felt like it's been that much. So the Angels have done a really good job, especially for there being a quote unquote elbow epidemic. I know they've had a couple injuries in the minors, but for the most part, really, like I don't think they've really had all that. I mean, Zach Christophak this year after they released him had Tommy John, which is an interesting note there, and then Austin Warren had TJ, and Quijada I guess also had TJ, but it feels like there hasn't been all that many. I could totally be wrong. I guess I'm naming off four guys there in the past year and a half. So
But usually it's like when this injury happens, they usually know it's TJ within a day or two, and we haven't heard that news, which is typically good news. You don't typically hear like 2-3 weeks from now, like, oh, hey, we found a tear in the UCL. Like, I would expect if we don't hear anything by Monday or Tuesday, that's a really good sign for him.
usually we'll hear something along the lines of if they go in the elbow and we hear, well, maybe it's a partial tear, maybe they're talking about this, and you're talking about that. And then later on, okay, yeah, we're gonna have the surgery, or no, we're not. We're gonna try and rehab it. Question for you guys with the whole epidemic, um, is it me or is it pretty much a given at this point that the moment they point at the UCL, you're gonna have surgery eventually?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, with the way
I
that
mean,
kids, it doesn't just start here. It dates back even farther. Like kids are throwing more and more to try to throw harder and harder. And I mean, you even look at a guy like Ben Joyce, like at some point that's going to explode. Like, anybody who's max effort throwing that hard, it's going to have wear and tear on that elbow. So, really, no matter what you do, I think it's almost inevitable. There are some guys that aren't going to have it. But yeah, it dates back, like I said, to when you're playing in Little League, when you're playing high school up to college, and the usage. I mean, kids are throwing every day now. Kids are throwing every single day. So that's just part of it, unfortunately.
all right. So moving on real quick, here's a word from our sponsors. All right. Now the big thing, that the first matchup between the Angels and Dodgers this weekend, the Angels break first game, they break a 10-game losing streak to the Dodgers on a night when Shohei Ohtani hits a 2-run home run for the Dodgers. Watching this matchup for the first time with Shohei on the other side, what are some thoughts that crossed your mind, Nate and Jared, as you see him wearing Dodger blue against the Angels?
It's an expensive DH. No, I mean, I don't know. I really don't care. I mean, I think everybody that's watched this podcast knows Nate and I's thought about this. And he's been very, very good this year for the Dodgers. And yeah, like I mean, you got the correct protection, you got the correct lineup, you got the correct team to do this with, and you were able to surround Shohei and Mookie and Freddie Freeman there. So it's an expensive DH, but yeah, I mean, it was good to get the win, especially see all the jokes about Shohei Ohtani homering, hitting a 455-foot home run and losing 3-2 to the Angels like that. It's good to be on the other side of those jokes every once in a while. But yeah, it, I he's in blue now. It's part of it. I thought we got all this out of our systems a couple months ago, but he had to make his return at some point. I would assume he's going to make his return to Angel Stadium at some point down the road here too. So we're going to probably have that exact same conversation again.
Nate?
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal to me. I mean, he's gone. It's over with. It's whatever. Like he made his decision. It's it's time to move on. The Shohei Ohtani thing, it's over. We need to focus on what the Angels can do to get back to the postseason. Obviously, that's not going to happen this year, but what can they do starting in July to get this team back in the right way moving forward?
Boy, Nate and I are really on like a negative bend here today. Not that we have any like real good news about this, but like it's like, whatever type of thing. Like Sandoval, Soriano, a real negative podcast, but
Yeah, I mean, just realistic. I think also too, just want to point this out. If you guys are talking like what you are, you spend your time on this podcast analyzing baseball, and at this point, you're done with the emotional side of Shohei leaving. But there are a lot of folks who aren't. And I don't think that it'll be completely done until he makes his return to Anaheim and that's over with. And then you're like, okay, it's done now. The emotional side of it, for me, personally, I haven't thought about him all year. Honestly, the Angels themselves have been such a train wreck. That's all I'm thinking about. I don't even know. I don't even know Shohei's numbers right now.
they're really good.
I
Or they
know
were
they're
really good. I
good.
know he's slumping. He was in a little slump, but
I
they're really
mean,
good.
I know they're good. I'm not paying attention. I know they lost Mookie Betts for a bit. I know all that jazz, but I'm not paying it to any mind to what they're doing. I'm focusing solely on on all the issues with the Angels. So, but I know that if you go into the Angels, Facebook groups, so on and so forth, they're still talking about Shohei. They're still asked, even though it's been time. So for us, we may move on, but for others, hopefully this is the end of it because I'm quite frankly tired of hearing about it. But we're talking about rebuilding club. And I think this is where we'll probably end today. And July is just a few days away. We're going to start hearing more and more trade buzz. But this is also a rather depleted roster right now. Guys are hurt. You have some guys like Mike Trout, who we've talked about trading, but are now hurt again. Big contracts. Anthony Rendon, big contract, not back yet. Realistically, who are the guys right now on your mind you think could fetch some kind of return in July to help this team move forward?
Anybody that's on an expiring contract plus Tyler Anderson, really, I would assume. Since we're seeing him have a career type. Nate, I know you don't want to hear
No,
that, but
no, but I want to know what he means by fetch a return because, like, I mean,
anybody that you get a player back for,
we
right?
could
I
get a
mean,
lottery ticket for Carlos Estevez right now, maybe something a little bit more like a lottery ticket for Hunter Strickland, but like to actually rebuild this farm system, which is what you need to go get guys that are
you're not going to
close to
rebuild this
MLB
farm.
ready.
You're not going to rebuild this farm system with anybody that you're trading right now. Like you're not getting the return
No,
for Tyler Anderson. You're not getting the return for anybody that
you could get a good return for Taylor Ward. You could get a good return for Luis Rengifo.
You could,
You're
but
not.
it's if they're going to trade him or not. And I don't know if they're going to do
But
that.
that's not what he asked. He asked who could fetch a return.
I know,
He
and
just
that's what
asked
I'm
who could.
saying is who they're going to trade. You can think they're going to trade Renifo and Ward. I don't think
I
they're
don't
going to
think they're
trade them.
going to trade anyone. Like I actually think that they're going to stand pat because that's the Angel way of doing things. Like, oh, we're going to listen on everybody, and then it's going to come to the deadline. We're going to trade Hunter Strickland for a player to be named later and cash considerations, and that's the only move they're going to make all or all trade deadline. We're going to come here on August 1st or August 2nd, just be pissed off that we wasted yet another trade deadline by doing nothing.
Is Lucas Giolito available again? No, he's
No,
hurt.
he had TJ.
That's right.
You guys are negative today. This is bad, man. Man, who pissed in your Wheaties? Like, this is rough. I think they will make some moves. I think that they will have the green light for it. I don't know that they'll move Taylor Ward and Luis Rengifo. I think you're right. Those are the two best active options right now. The question for both about both in my mind is have they hit their ceiling? Like, are they going to get any better than what they are? And if they're not, then you have every reason to move them. So why not move them? I think that when you're talking about this system right now, there are several guys you can move to get, at the very least, some depth to the farm system. But that's different than something that'll rebuild the system. So it's kind of a hard. I'm gonna frame it like this, and me ask us about it. And this goes back some time. I'm not sure how far back your memory goes. And the Angels, when they won the World Series, the complaint about that team prior to that was they had players in the system, they had hitters, and they didn't have any pitching. And I saw somebody today, a couple days ago actually, on social media talking about this is so similar to the 2001 Angels when they had Mike Scioscia as manager and they were horrible, but they turned it around quickly. They can do the same thing now. I don't see it's the same situation like they were saying they could do, because the idea was, well, Ron Washington, Mike Scioscia, experienced managers. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
I don't see that same hope, because I know that Angels team had players in the system. They did, and they already had established guys who were healthy. Tim Sandoval was healthy. Garrett Anderson was healthy. They were established. They weren't going anywhere. They were in their primes. Right now we have Anthony Rendon and Mike Trout. They're hurt a lot. Not the same situation. Strong farm system then, barren farm system now. Is there any comparison to the years leading up to that World Series to now?
Man.
No.
Ron Washington and Mike Scioscia, maybe?
No. None.
A okay core group of guys. I don't know. Probably not. No. I mean, a little bit, I guess. Not really.
Well, we have a core, right? We have Zach Netos of the world. We have a core. They had a core, but their core were
better.
all-stars.
Yeah.
Former first overall pick. They had 3 or 4 guys who went in the first round on that team that were like legitimate all-stars.
Mickey Moniak, former first overall pick.
Yeah. can't forget about that.
So is it safe to say we can dispel the whole idea that you can compare the two?
It's not even close.
Not close. So
My question here, I got a question then for you, Derek, since you remember this a lot better than we do. How similar is Disney and Artie Moreno?
Disney was cheaper.
Well, Disney was cheaper on the
Yes.
spending side. Yes, on the
Well, hold
Yes.
actual
on.
spending on
Let me lay it
players
out.
side
Let
of
me lay it
things.
out to you. Like the, and you got to remember the assistants were different. This modern farm system setup is they're not the same. But I felt like Disney hired baseball people to do baseball things. Bill Stoneman was a baseball guy, and the guy did not get credit for what he built. He built an amazing farm system that put together talent in a way the Angels were positioned to win through the entire decade. This is the problem that I used to be very much pro Artie. I remember Artie taking over and he went and spent money on Vladdy and Jose Rivera and all these guys in that first 10 years and we were really happy he would go do this. But at the root of it, why did the Angels win as much as they did between 2002 and 2010, 2011? It was the work of the previous regime. It wasn't Artie. And once you realize that, the entire view of the organization the last 20 years changes. It was so when we're looking at historically, what did Disney do? Disney just stayed out of the way. They really did. Of course, they had the whole weird Angels uniform design that they wore for like 4 years, but they let the baseball people be baseball people, and they built a solid system that eventually bore fruit. And you have an ownership team right now that doesn't let the baseball people be baseball people, and the baseball people don't have the guts to stand up to the ownership team, and now you have a mediocre to less than mediocre product in the field. This reminds you know what it reminds me of? Again, I'm amazing myself. In the mid 90s, the Orioles were really good. They really gave the Yankees some problems in 95, 96, 97, 98. They were really, really good. Peter Angelos had bought the team and then after a couple of years and the talent went away and you saw this lawyer try and run the Orioles and fail miserably. That's how it feels like with the Angels. You had this person who is not a baseball guy try and run the Angels, and the result is this. And until Artie Moreno decides to let the baseball guys be baseball guys, and the people he hires have the balls to stand up to him, this is where we are.
Angels were the Rays, is what you're telling me.
Pardon me?
Angels were the Rays before the Rays were the Rays.
Yeah, man, they developed everybody. And matter of fact, I remember in 2003 and 2004, Angels fans getting so frustrated because Bill Stoneman would not trade his prospects to go get those stars to get him back over the top again. He held on to those prospects so tight. And now years later, we would be thrilled to have that kind of system now. And we would be telling Bill Stoneman, oh, don't trade those guys. Hold on to them. It's like you got what you wanted, and you find out it bears no fruit, and here we are.
That's fair. And if Taylor Blackward's listening to this, he would shoot me if I didn't mention Bob Fontaine Jr., who was the head of scouting for the Angels between 87 and 99. So there's the shout out there. Bob Fontaine Jr. Been on the show before as well. Great.
Historically too, we're talking about those years and the Angels used to have this reputation from pretty much the 80s until they won the World Series as being this hard luck organization. But almost every year in those late 80s through 2001, they were competitive. They didn't have a winning season every year, but there was always hope they would do something that year. I never went into a season thinking, oh, they're going to suck this year horribly. I never went into that. There was always some kind of hope on the horizon. And I don't feel that way now for the organization. It's a really depressing place to be as a fan.
Yeah, you're telling us.
But I remember that. I remember all those years. I remember when Tin Salmon came up, and I was a 14-year-old teenager listening to the Angels on the radio because they were playing Cleveland. So I was able to listen to it on the radio. I was in Ohio. And him launching a game-winning home run and thinking that's our future star right there. So even in that 92 season when they were horrible that year, you had hope because the young kids were coming. Tin Salmon's up. Garrett Anderson's coming. You know those guys are coming. And when they do, this team's going to be fun. Do we have that now? Is there, honestly, this is an honest question because you guys know the farm system better. Is there that guy in the system right now? You're like, he's coming. I can't wait till he gets here. It's going to matter.
Yeah, but he's down playing in the Dominican right now.
I mean, you're excited about
Yeah.
Caden Dana,
You
but
got three.
like that
I got
doesn't.
three guys.
It's one starting pitcher. Like the Angels aren't one player away from being good. They need like 14, 15, 16 guys to be in a better spot. So it's hard to get excited when they're not like one player away and they really only have one prospect who's close. You could argue a second guy's close, but I don't think so. Other than that, it's pretty open. Like two or three guys maybe.
One thing that I kind of rest my hat on it and hoping is in today's game, because talent's so spread out, you really, at the major league level anyways, you really aren't far from competing if you play your card right, if you draft right, if you move guys through the system right. There's hope there, but there has to be something that changes in the Angels organization to get you there. I mean, there's hope there. I just wish I saw it. I know it's there. Just saw it. Man, it's a sad podcast today. People are going to turn us off and then start crying. They're going to rock back and forth in their chair. Oh my gosh, the Angels. That's how it feels. There's hope coming, though. Draft's coming. Nate, come on, man. Give us something.
Give us a good final thought, Nate. Come on.
If your name is Logan O'Hoppe, Zach Neto, Chase Sill, Seth Reed, Detmers, Caden Dana, Ben Joyce, Jose Soriano, or Sam Bachman, you're unavailable. Everyone else is available. Nolan Shanuel is available.
For you.
Yeah. He's available. Guy's hit 220. Guy's hit 220 with a 660 OPS. You're telling me that guy's not available right now?
Well, he shouldn't have been up yet. He shouldn't have been up this time. But they
but
brought him up early.
He's up. Like you have to deal with what you have right now, and he's up. So if you're telling me that if somebody called you and said, "Hey, what would it take for Nolan Shanuel?" you would hang up the phone on that?
Well,
If that's your
all
answer,
those guys are available because there's a price you're going to pay for all those guys. But
no, there's not a price I'm willing to trade Logan O'Hoppe right now because nobody's going to meet that price. First of all, and second of all,
if the Orioles come and say, "Hey, here's Jackson Holiday," you're going to hang up the phone.
Yes, because the Orioles are going to call and say, "Here's Jackson Holiday for Logan O'Hoppe, who plays the same position as their best player."
Just
like,
saying.
no, it's not realistic. But there are teams that are looking for first baseman, right? And if somebody calls and says, "Hey, we're willing to trade for Nolan Shanuel," you're not hanging up the phone.
No,
you're just not.
I'm not hanging up the phone on anybody. There's not one guy that I'm saying that like, oh, this guy's untradeable. There are guys that there's a price tag on for sure, but there's not one guy in this entire organization that I'm hanging the phone up on. Maybe Joshua Lugo. That might be my only guy.
Everyone's available. Everyone's available.
All right. So hopefully a month from now, they've had a better draft. We know who the players are, and we have a more positive take. But listeners, I'm sorry, man. This was sad. Injuries. Injuries, a rough system right now. How about this? Here's the good news. Eventually, historically, even the bad teams, even the teams of poor owners like the Royals had and the Orioles had, eventually they figure it out. The question is, how long will it take? Have some faith that sooner rather than later, something breaks over in Anaheim and it turns. So there we go. Sooner or later it happens. Just a question of when. Follow us on Twitter at Talking Halos. I promise you we're not this depressing all the time. I promise. It's just been a rough couple days watching guys drop like flies. Follow me at DC Ciapola. Follow Jared at Jared_Tims and Nate at Nate Green 34. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast or follow on YouTube. Do all you got to do. Please give us a hand and we'll talk to you soon. We're out of here.